In this video, I'm going to go over a couple very simple and practical reasons why we are not going to have a housing crash here in the U.S. in 2023 or anytime soon, in my opinion. It's just not going to happen. Unfortunately, there are a lot of articles out there, a lot of videos giving all these ideas and reasons why we could possibly be experiencing a housing crash. But do you even know the definition of what a housing crash is? Well, to be honest with you, I actually had to look it up because I don't know what the actual Webster's Dictionary definition of a housing crash really is. But guess what? There is no Webster Dictionary definition. There's no Wikipedia definition of a housing crash. But here's what I was able to find online. What is a housing crash? A housing crash is a sharp decline in real estate values that typically follows a period of inflated housing prices. Okay, that's a housing bubble, and we are not experiencing a housing bubble, at least not in my area of Northwest Florida. That's not happening. Housing crashes are generally caused by a slowing economy, tighter credit standards, and or a rise in interest rates, all of which can contribute to a decline in demand. That's one of the points I'm going to talk about later in the video is demand. Okay, here's another definition. A housing market crash is a complex event with many factors at play. Okay, I agree with that. Simply put, a housing market crash is when the prices of houses start to decrease rapidly, often leading to a decrease in the number of homes being bought and sold. This usually happens when there is an oversupply of homes in the market and not enough buyers, which drives real estate prices down. Another reason is that in part due to increasing interest rates, homeowners are defaulting on their mortgages more often, which reduces the value of houses. Now, the last time that we experienced any type of housing crisis or housing crash was back in 2008. And we all know those times were a lot different than they are right now.
Historically, house prices have been somewhat disconnected across different parts of the country, but this housing bubble did end up being national, and it did have implications for the whole economy.
The real estate bubble, everybody knows, has burst.
This is the hangover after the great frat party you went to.
House prices started to fall. The economy started to slow.
Those adjustable rate mortgages are now coming due.
People who had bought these adjustable rate mortgages, when they started to reset, they couldn't afford to make the higher payments. They tried to refinance them, but their house prices declined in value, so they couldn't refinance them.
Foreclosures are up over 1,000%.
Some people start defaulting on their mortgage payments, and now that begins to ripple through.
It was very, very bad. A lot of people lost their homes, a lot of people lost their savings.
Those falling home prices are like an infection now spreading throughout the U.S. economy.
The system's not designed to function in an environment where house prices are going down. So these mortgage-backed securities start to unravel, and you got problems.
Okay, so that's one thing. Times are way different now than they were back in 2008. That's a given. But what are some of the other reasons why we're not going to experience a housing crash? One of the biggest reasons, in my opinion, is low inventory. There's just not enough properties out there right now. There's more qualified buyers than there are properties. Even with higher interest rates, people are still buying right now. And as long as we have high demand and low inventory, we're not going to experience a housing crash. It's just impossible. Another factor that is affecting the low inventory is the lack of new construction. Home builders just haven't caught up. If you remember during COVID, lumber prices skyrocketed, building material prices skyrocketed. Getting materials was very difficult. Right now, it's even hard to get windows. New windows are 6 to 8 weeks out right now, still. So the shortage of new homes being built right now is affecting the low inventory for sure. Another reason, we have hardly any foreclosures on the market. Back in 08 and 09, we were inundated with foreclosures. Foreclosures were everywhere. They were on the market in every city, every town in America. Right now, if you take a look at some of the biggest company websites like Bank of America and Wells Fargo, you're going to see that these companies have hardly any REO or foreclosures right now, and that is affecting our inventory. Another reason keeping us from having a housing crash, and this has a lot to do with our low number of foreclosures, is that lenders have much more strict loan guidelines now than it did back in those days.
As we moved to securitization, we had cheaper mortgages. If you could afford 20% down, fine. But if you couldn't, let's say you have 5%, let's say you had 1%, let's say you had 0%. We came up with all these ways to get loans to more people. You know, it was certainly felt exciting at the time that we were going to spread the American dream all over the place.
They definitely spread the American dream, but what they didn't realize they were doing was creating a lot of bad debt. These mortgages were basically doomed from the very beginning.
These exotic loans have exploded in the last 3 years.
Interest-only loans, adjustable rate loans, no down payment options.
People who were earning like $1,000 a month working as a gardener or working as a hairstylist saying they were making $10,000 a month because you could do these things called stated income loans, which came to be known as liar loans, where you could just say, here's what I make, and nobody would check. And so you could get away with murder.
Basically, back then, if you had a pulse, you were almost guaranteed you can get financing of some kind. The last reason I'm going to go over is also having a big impact on the low inventory issue, and that is sellers are more reluctant to sell right now than ever before. Homeowners have low motivation to sell because many are locked into low rate mortgages and don't want to give up that rate to sell and repurchase a more expensive home with a higher mortgage rate. With affordability at an all-time low, homeowners are finding ways to access their home equity for renovation projects to suit their needs better. Homeowners also use their increased equity pad retirement and savings accounts, pay off high-interest credit card debt, and supplement living expenses as inflation grows. There are a lot of sellers out there right now that have interest rates in the low threes. It's very hard to sell a home and know that you're going to go into a mortgage that's going to be probably double what your rate is right now. That'll do it for this video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. As always, I really appreciate it. Make sure and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Thanks and have a great day.